Oi, 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 YouTube. I've tried to record this video so many times, so we're going to try to burn through it. Unclench your jaw. Thank you guys for being here. Get your water. If you haven't taken your medication, try to get your meds. Take care of yourself, okay? Today we're going to talk about MMR. We're going to try to keep it civil, so please no shit talking in the comment section below. Try to keep things constructive, all right? We're not attacking people. We're talking and discussing ideas, okay? So today, if you did not know, there's a Q&A where the lead game designer, Patrick, discussed the simplicity surrounding MMR and how MMR functions. And I'll give you the quick lowdown. MMR is survivor versus killer. If the survivor dies, they lose. If they survive, they win unless they escape via hatch, which is null. The way that works for killer is if the killer kills a survivor, that's a win for them. If a survivor escapes, it's a lose. So if one survivor escapes, they lose a little bit of their they lose a little bit of their MMR. But if they kill two others, it goes up, and then they'll lose one, again. So, so if a killer kills three people, and then one escapes, they go down. So it's a net positive is what I'm assuming. I want to go ahead and say that that is not, it's not great, right? It's not great. And the reason for that is because it ignores a lot of nuance. Many of us have been a killer who, watches a Bill escape that hid all around and never looped us once. We've all been part of that. Simultaneously, we've all seen killers that just tunnel one guy out and the guy burned a lot of resources, whatever. I've been a survivor that's like, oh man, okay, I've looped him for a minute and a half, 2 minutes, not enough time for every gen to get done, but now I'm in a dead zone and I'm out of options and I go down and I just die on first hook because nobody unhooks me, right? And so I think the problem people are having is that because I just die on first hook as survivor, nobody came and got me, that means that I am a worse survivor than the other people that die, right? According to the system. That creates a problem where that doesn't feel fair and it doesn't seem to make sense. It lacks nuance. Okay. So the one thing I want to go ahead and start off and say, I don't subscribe to the idea that developers don't care. I'm going to go ahead and I don't subscribe to that idea. And the reason why I don't think that criticism makes any sense is because if I were in the developer shoes, if I were creating this system and putting it out and go literally swimming upstream against all of the criticisms of that system and all the fears of that system, like if I didn't care, I wouldn't do that. If I were a developer and I did not care about, I just didn't care about the game or the community, I wouldn't change a thing. I'll just keep raking in the cash till the day the game dies. I wouldn't elect myself to sit here and explain a system that people are going to be mad about. Does that make sense? Like, I don't subscribe to the devs don't care. What I will say is the nuance of a true MMR system is probably more work than they can accomplish. And that is not a lack of their capability as much as that is a deeply complicated discussion to have. If we want to really talk about MMR and how to effectively implement MMR, then we have to weight everything. Everything has to have a weight, a sinker attached to it, right? So, and what that means is everything has to be locked in before you queue, right? If you're going to burn an offering to send somebody to a map, that has to be locked in before you queue. Right, because if you send a killer to Haddonfield, that killer is going to struggle more than if that killer were on Coal Tower, right? And so if a killer goes to Haddonfield, then the survivors they match with need to be of a slightly lower MMR to hit a balance, right? Because decent survivors against decent killer on Haddonfield, that killer is automatically going to have a tougher time, right? Think about perks, right? And I know Scott Junn's talked about this a little bit, and I've agreed with this thought process for a long time of having it so that, like, if you're running DS, Dead Hard, Unbreakable, and the killer's running Brutal Strength, Enduring, right? And if 4 survivors all have those perks, and a killer's not running a full sweat build, those survivors should maybe be going against a killer that is running a tougher build. But once we get into weighting everything, once everything is weighted, right? If it's a 4-man Swift in comms and they all are running meta perks and somebody burns a Haddonfield offering and it throws them up here, then they're really only going to play against like nurses that are willing to, that are running like 2 slowdowns or something. You know what I mean? And it makes it so that matchmaking is like impossibly difficult. Unless they do what they kind of do now, where if your MMR gets too high, then it rounds down and tries to put you with other people. But at that point, then we just have the same system we have now. In my thoughts, the MMR lacks so much nuance now that it lacks so much nuance that it's not really a skill-based matchmaking system, is it? My ability to know when to throw a pallet because I can't make another cycle around an object. So I throw the pallet and then I run back at the pallet. The killer comes around and I run back at the pallet to fake a vault, but I don't vault. The killer doubles back. He gets jebaited. Like, my ability to do these things and waste the killer's time is a skill. A survivor's ability to get a survivor's ability to be like, okay, that person's on hook. They've been on hook for 5 seconds. My gen's got 25 seconds left, which means that by the time this gen is done, they'll have about 20 to 25 seconds left on their hook state, and I have to run for about 15 seconds, so I should be able to get there right at the nick of time. That decision-making ability is really important, right? So how do you qualify those things and then equate them? What's more important? Well, the ability to do gens and get people, unhooked safely is a very important thing to know how to do. Is super important. Is it more important than knowing how to run, or at least knowing how to pre-throw pallets, get to the next thing, and then, loop it once and then pre-throw it? And is pre-throwing a more valuable skill than not? How do you equate these things, right? On top of every perk being weighted, on top of every perk or every map offering being weighted, or every add-on being weighted. As you start to feed hundreds more data points into this, we see that like an MMR system is deeply busted. And I don't know that an MMR system can function, but we as a community hated the rank system, right? Of like, we hated the idea of like, oh, well, ranks don't matter, because if you're red rank, you can still be trash, but you always crouch walk out of the gate, so you escape, and so you always are. Like, and in that way, MMR is the same as rank. It's not a lot different. It's really not. Except in the rank system, you could still die and pip up. So I'm not gonna rage against the machine and say the devs are idiots or that they don't know what they're talking about, or they don't care. I think they've tried to simplify a system that shouldn't be simplified. Somebody who lets me die on first hook so they can survive isn't inherently more skilled. They may be more skilled, but not just on that very basis are they more skilled than me. So I think there needs to be more nuance to the system. And I think the good news here is that the MMR system has more malleability to it and more ability to have things added to it than the old ranking system was. The ranking system was rigid. The data points were rigid. Emblems, chaser points, blah, 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 all that stuff was very rigid. And in a way, I think the rigidity of that ranking system and chaser emblems and like, oh, Billy can't get a chaser emblem because he chainsawed somebody and Trickster's chaser emblem's busted. I think all of those things have like burnt behavior out on wanting to use those very specific data points on how well a chase did or didn't go and all of that stuff. But I think I'm concerned that MMR isn't moving the needle one way or another. People are mad about it, and a lot of people say they're having worse matches or sweatier matches, and there are some days where I feel like I get battered a little bit more than others. There's some days where I just steamroll every match. Today, I won like every game, and I was like, this feels weird. And it's inconsistent, and that's how rank used to feel. It's honestly just feels like the rank system to me. But if the devs didn't care, I think they wouldn't try. I don't know how to make the perfect MMR system. I'd love to hear your thoughts below, but I do want to keep everything constructive. But my two things is I hope more data points get added. I hope that they realize that this simplicity is almost insulting and clearly logically not true. And they've kind of admitted to some degree that it kind of defies a little bit of logic. And maybe the amount of data points required is just not possible. That certainly could be true. I don't know. But I wanted to talk about it in a way that felt productive, because I want to be productive. And I think that's very important with regards to this situation. I don't want to see any personal attacks. I will just remove people. There's no reason to personally attack anybody on the team. That doesn't make any sense. So what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys for coming through. We'll talk to you soon.